we could do this again, but the combination of what you signed or who you signed out of high school, and then also who you are before and after incoming and outgoing in the transfer portal, to me, would be the most important top whatever.
That should be like the June 1st rankings.
Yeah, because the May 1st is another transfer.
Yeah, you've got that other transfer window. So I say June 1st, but whatever that time is where you expect to kind of have your roster set of the guys who leave in spring, then evaluate what your whole transfer class is, what your whole recruiting class is, and then come up with some sort of composite number there. Would be interesting to see. And again, that changes, that ever flowing, because, you can whiff on everybody, or you can hit on everybody, or it's some combination between. I do think what is interesting to me about the transfer portal is it's so low risk, really. I mean, because it is free agency, and coaches call it that. But the thing about free agency in sports is, look, in professional sports, if I go and sign a guy to a 5, 7, 8 year deal and he's not good for 2 years, and then I kick him down the road, then I'm on the hook for 6 years, or in Major League Baseball, or whatever the salary cap implications are in the other sports. The NFL, you've got a dead money and all that. In college sports, shoot, guy transfers, doesn't work out, gets hurt, whatever. I mean, it's only a year bust, really, because you can move him on down the road and then replace him with someone else.
Yeah, that's what I don't like about it.
Yeah.
I mean, here's what I guess I don't like about it is I love that your team can not be that good and can in 5 months suddenly have a completely new team and be revamped. I mean, that's fun. You don't have like the full reconstruction project necessarily as often as you might. But there's no repercussions for not doing your job well. I mean, you have to really just not do your job well and lose a lot to lose your job. I mean, because if you aren't that great of a recruiter, that can be covered up now to a certain degree. If you whiffed on all these guys, NIL money-wise or whatever, half of them are gone, Jimbo. They're gone. How do you replace it? Go to the transfer portal. Go get everybody else's cast-offs, or not even cast-offs, but guys that, maybe somebody that you kind of know but aren't attached to it officially, sent that person a DM. Hey, you'd be interested in coming to college. If you whiff on your...
Are we seeing more coaching changes as much now as ever before? Or you think that's about to kick in and be less?
I don't really haven't sat down and really thought about it all that much. I'm just saying that if you were a good recruiter, that was an advantage that you had, like being an identifier of talent, knowing at the high school level or at the JUCO level or whatever, like I see that diamond in the rough, we're going to create him from, clay and mold him into this guy. Now you might find that guy, but now the big school comes in after a year, once you've developed him and brought him up, and now they come swooping and they grab him from you. Like that development piece of you landed this guy who is a project, but you built him up into this great NFL story after 3 or 4 years. I just don't think that those types of stories are going to be nearly as often as maybe they were before. Not that that was like an occurrence like all the time or anything, but you went to a program, you sat there and you developed. For better or for worse sometimes. And so that's what's great as far as having this exit for the athlete goes. But for the coaches who recruit really well and find and identify those guys, you have no guarantee they're on your campus after a year. And I just think that kind of sucks. So if you are somebody who is not a great recruiter or maybe a not great identifier of talent, well, that's okay. You whiffed on half this class. You can just go to the transfer portal and go grab a bunch of guys that now you know more about. And I just think that element of what separates the different parts of being a great coach are just eliminated in so many ways. And so that's where I don't like it as much, because it doesn't give us the full picture like maybe we once had.
Garrett, let me know when you have this. Chris Vanini just put this up on Twitter, and Garrett's kind of trying to get it ready for us. What you just said. So the NCAA removed the signing limit cap this year and next year, leading to look at these classes on how many incoming players, both signing for out of high school and transfer portal. Arizona State, Dillingham, new coach. Dion at Colorado. Matt Rule at Nebraska. Oregon, second year with Dan Lanning. Oklahoma, second year with Venables. Mississippi State, unfortunately, because of the tragic death of Mike Leach, a new coach. Memphis, Georgia Southern. Look at how many incoming players on what are 85 scholarship limit rosters. Half or almost half, in some cases more, of the roster has been changed.
Yeah, that's what in the NFL, that's kind of what the Texans did a couple years ago when they knew that they were like they're in kind of salary cap jail. Deshaun Watson's not going to play for them anymore. They have to just kind of clear out everything. They sent a bunch of players to 1 or 2 year deals, and that's what they've been kind of rolling through the last couple of years. That is now the college football equivalent of it. And you've got a new coach. You're going to clear out players. Some of the players you don't even have to clear out. They'll leave before you even really get there. As soon as Scott Frost got fired, there are probably 10 guys that were like, look, I don't care who comes in here. Yeah. If it's the reanimated corpse of Bill Walsh, I'm not going to stay here.
And Nebraska lost.
Exactly.
They lost
so they're just going to leave. So then that's a chunk, maybe 10 or more, that just decided, I don't care who it is. They're gone. And then on and on and on down the line that you're going to lose. And, well, when we were with Coach Rule a couple weeks ago, and he was down here, Phil Snow asked him about what was the number in the class. He's like, I don't even know what it's going to be because there's no limit because of the new rules.
Part of this, Veniti added, was needed because schools are losing so many transfers. They couldn't get even back up to 85. It's obvious you have schools nudging more kids into the portal to open up spots now. The NCAA said it would monitor the numbers for the next couple of years and go from there.
And that's what I mean, too. If you screwed up on your recruiting class, you screwed up, and that's going to have ramifications. Yep. Your decisions and your planning was off, and you will pay for that. But now there's no repercussion. Now you're just like, nudge him into the portal, go grab the next guy and hope that guy sticks. And that's great as fans. It's great as media. It gives us tons to talk about. I love it for the players. It's freedom of movement, and they do that, long overdue that, based on the way the old structure was set up where they had basically zero. I mean, the players deserved and still deserve even more freedom. But, I mean, this is where I'm talking about with, like, the parameters of just the constant moving around. It's great for the teams and all that, but that was part of the deal, man. That's how you could separate this coach from that coach, was this guy could stay in there and develop and identify and all that. And now you have guys signing #1 recruiting classes, and half the class is gone in less than a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, what?
Yeah, there are no consequences.
Well,
eventually, you better start signing some pretty good because the transfer portal is a crapshoot.
But this cycle, I mean, some of these things are a bit of a winding road. For example, used to, if you were a first-year coach and the team had been bad for a long time, for example, Deion Sanders or Matt Rule, let's take out their star power in it. Like, just that they're the coach, and they've had this situation where both of their schools have been behind the 8 ball for a decade or more. So you would have normally had to, you can tell the fans and the alumni and everything else, like, look, you guys know how bad this was. I need 3 or 4 years to, like, get my players in here and cycle through some of this stuff. Well, now because of the transfer portal, you don't need 3 or 4 years anymore. So people will start realizing, like, hold on a minute. Like, it's not about getting, players that are going to help you win a national championship necessarily, but players that can help you build a roster to win 7 or 8 games. You can do that a lot faster right now to where you can start building towards that. So once fans start picking up on who's good or not at that transfer portal part of it, then I do think that maybe that shifts back away, and there are consequences for it, because if you can't navigate either one.
So in the end, over the next, let's say, 5 years, will what we now see, or what we see now, will this allow coaches to not be, that the carousel won't be as rampant as we maybe have seen the last couple of years? Or is it always going to still be the same?
I think it's going to
be that way.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, there's 100-something schools.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's
131,
not going to be 10 openings every year. That's going to be automatic. And at some point, like, something's going to have to give too. I mean, you can pile up all these great schools in one conference all you want, but somebody's got to be the best of that, right?
Somebody's going to lose.
I mean, the odds of all, USC, UCLA, and UCLA I don't put in that same category with Oklahoma and Texas and USC as far as football goes, but there are going to be expectations, and somebody's going to have to be at the bottom of the standings, and maybe not those new schools, but someone else will suffer as a result of their entries. But I mean, and I just think it's so wide ranging, like all of the changes that it makes, because on the one hand you could say that coaches have even less time now because now you don't have the excuse of having to build a roster.
Okay.
Like, hey, I need 3 years, Matt Rule, to build up the roster in Lincoln and get our 85 scholarships back right. Well, now you can go get 40 freaking players in one offseason. So how long does it really take you to build up this 85-man roster? It should take you probably half the time that it used to, right? So, especially if you're at a big school with NIL. In a year's time, you could flip your entire roster. I just don't like it because it takes. I mean, I say I don't like it. I think it's all very interesting, but there's like different parts to it. It's not just yes, I like it. No, I like it. One of the parts that I don't like is there's not any repercussions if you are not a great recruiter and not a great identifier of talent, because I feel like that's one of those advantages that separates guys, and I think that's going to be less of an advantage or less obvious now, but it will be super beneficial to the folks on the other side. So it gives and takes.
Who won this year? And this is only really year 1.5 or so of the NIL, right? Year 2. Who won?
Year 3, I think, at this point.
Is it 3? Okay. Who won this year that is not normally a part of the party? How many teams? Let's say among the top 10, TCU is obviously one of them. They benefited from the portal. Tulane is one of those right outside the cusp, and they probably had some coming and going too. So will it change who is the upper echelon?
No.
Or will it just be a one-off?
I think it gives teams options to get better faster. Look, I'll give the coach, Craig, I think that you are inadvertently talking about how we don't know how good the recruiter is right now, Mike Norvell. Because, look, he's only been at Florida State a short time. So really don't really know how good of a high school recruiter he is. What we do know about him is he is a wizard in the portal. Like, if you look at the biggest playmakers they had this year, Trey Benson, portal. Now, Jordan Travis was from the portal. He was before that, but still, portal. Johnny Wilson, their big-time wide receiver, portal. All their other wide receivers, Micah Pittman, portal. Jared, their best defensive player, portal. So he's really good at that. We'll see how good he is at high school recruiting, but he's been able to accelerate the process there without having to, do it with 25 high school recruits a year. He can mix and match a lot better.
Well, here's the deal. He might not ever have to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We got to get to Mickey. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, he might not ever have to because it's the new era of college football, so he can just portal it every year.
That's true.
And so, I'm just saying that it sucks for the guys who are great identifiers of talent, and they got advantages not because of NIL or because of they had the big brand attached to them, but they were just good. Like, I'm thinking of the Matt Rule staff that was here in Waco and how they went and found some diamonds in the rough. That's kind of what they're trying to do in Lubbock now, to the same degree. And there will be rewards for that, but there's also that downside that, you might find that guy, but then the big school just comes calling, and I know that's where culture comes into play. So it's obviously it's way more complicated than just a yes or no, this is good or this is bad. But it's all very interesting. That's what we do know.
Satterfield, who's the offensive coordinator at Nebraska, was driving through Colorado to go see a player. Was driving through, I think, the Denver area and decided to go look at a high school that he just happened to see off on the side of the road. Ended up signing a player who's like Kalen Barnes, that type. I mean, with that kind of high-class speed that was getting no offers because the coach said, hey, thanks for coming. Nobody ever comes by here. Those stories are great, but, you wonder how many more of those. But, it's awesome, the give and take, and eventually we'll see how this affects whoever can jump up like TCU did this year. When we come